Hey everybody, welcome to the Book Leads Impactful Books for Life and Leadership. I'm your series host and leadership performance coach, John Jaramillo. This podcast series is about getting to the books that have impacted the lives of the people in my network the most. So these are great leads, these conversations on those books that have impacted them the most, left a mark on them, have stood out, have provided the most influence to them. I want to see what it is that's contributed to the people that are sitting in front of me to create and build the businesses and doing the work that they're doing. And my guest today is Carrie-Lynn Hotson. And Carrie-Lynn is an organizational coach, author, and leadership expert with 26 years of experience in leadership, HR, and team development. Through her company, Inspiring Organizational Growth, she helps leaders and teams uncover the root causes of interpersonal challenges and build highly synergetic workplaces. Carrie-Lynn works with organizations across a wide range of sectors, offering workshops, individual coaching, mediation services, and support in developing or revising policies and practices. She's the author of 4 books, including her latest, VISH, Value, Inspire, Support, Here, The Essential Elements of Business Success. And this is Carrie-Lynn's second visit to the Book Leads. In July 2022, she and I had our first conversation in episode 32, in which we covered her book, Knowing Who You Lead, important lessons on why you need to understand those we lead, why we need to understand those we lead. And we were talking before I hit record about how quickly time passes by, where we always say that, right? It's an adage, a saying you always hear, we always say, but it's just incredible. I don't know if it's because we're post-COVID and kind of for most of us, every second counts. We're very intentional about what we do, but it's incredible having guests come back to the series. And in some cases it is, 2-3 years since the last time we spoke. So it's incredible, Carrie-Lynn, that you have another book coming out or out. I don't know if it's already out, Carrie-Lynn.
Yeah, it was launched in May.
Okay. It's incredible you have this next book, and I'm grateful to have you back on the series. And it's interesting just because as professional as we are in the work we're doing, the businesses we have, I find that even when I bring somebody back, the way that they speak about leadership, about life is different just based on those experiences from the last conversation. So thank you again for coming back.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thanks for the invite.
And I wanted to start off, as usual, who are you today? So to dive in a little bit more about or into the work that you're doing today, just to give insight to the listener, to the viewer on who they're listening to and hearing from. Just if you could, just the different pockets of the work you're doing and what that looks like.
Well, as you mentioned, it's been 3 years, which is incredible. But I love what you just said, that I think we're trying to be more intentional with what we do now. So when I wrote that first book, it was kind of me putting my thoughts and my ideas out into the world and hoping, that the business would grow, that it would flourish, but I didn't really know what it was going to look like. So it's been fun, developing that over the last 3 years. I think it's also really interesting how we define ourselves. So like when I wrote the first book, Knowing Who You Lead, it was really focused on helping and supporting leaders because I know how incredibly tough supervision can be. And so I thought of myself more as like a leadership coach, maybe an HR specialist coming in and supporting you, giving you some guidance, maybe building both confidence and competence in you as a leader. But I very quickly figured out that the best way was to work with the whole organization. Mm-hmm. How am I going to work with you as a leader if I haven't yet had the opportunity to meet your team? Because you're talking to me about your impressions of people that work for you, your assumptions, sometimes your presumptions and biases. We don't know what we don't know. So I kind of turned myself, refocused, and realized, no, it's truly being an organizational coach. And that is where we have the best, incredible success. And it's really the work that I like to do the best because I feel like we're being inclusive. We're including everybody in the conversations.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Even just in having this series, these conversations with you all, it's messed me up because I went into it thinking that, not that I knew everything, absolutely not, but that I had a good grasp on who I was, what I thought leadership was, the questions to ask surrounding leadership, right? I had this good idea of that. And then in talking to all of you, it just kind of, obviously with every conversation you ever have in life, it expands your thinking on the way that you see things. So it's funny that you've stepped back from being so focused and then kind of refocusing to the larger ecosystem of the organization. And I mentioned that all just to say I'm kind of in the same boat where I'm reconsidering the way that I look at things, because you're right. I mean, what a leader says to us when we're coaching them is their lens through which they see things. So you're not seeing the entire environment. So I love that you found that between the last time we spoke to now, that realization that there is that bigger picture.
The other piece that I realized, I love my first book and I use it a lot. I use it in my coaching. I use it in leadership workbooks or workshops and training workshops that I do. But what I really realized too was I'm also a college professor. So I'm always thinking about like, how do I use a textbook, or I need a reference. And so I thought I just need to write one. So VISH, that's the short form for the book, really is something that I can use for more organizationally. I can use it for the teams and the leaders, because the other piece I've realized is that leaders get exhausted and they're really, really trying in many cases to meet the needs of employees. But in some cases, employees, either because of a past experience with a leader who didn't listen, they aren't sharing. There could be mistrust. There could be assumptions and presumptions on their side. And so what I needed to really support was both learning how to talk to each other. And so that's what VISH is really helping me do, is helping us share what we actually value. How do I inspire you? How can I support you? How can I hear you? I think what's the neat part is that as we do work, I bet you just like you, like where you're saying you interview people and then you realize another question you want to ask or another thought you have. That's literally how VISH came to be, because as I was doing the work, I thought we all need another resource. So I'm just going to create it.
Yeah. Because I mean, obviously anybody this far into the game of listening to this series or reading your books or any books at all knows that leadership isn't cookie cutter.
No.
It's a moving target, right? It's not, it has its basic foundations and tenets, but the way that it's communicated, the way that it's designed, it just keeps evolving. So that was one of my things, was kind of needing to step back, because I never assumed it was locked into one form, but then I saw how many different perceptions there are, how many different approaches there are, how many different questions there are to ask. I think it's because I heard all of your stories, all of your backgrounds, because I'm curious about that. Obviously, I ask about that next. Who are you? Because I want to make sure I understand who you are here now and how you got here. What's your story? What's your path? So it's been frustrating because you think you have a lock on something, but obviously it opens up this world of opportunity to really go to that next level of understanding organizations, people, leaders, all of it.
You know what? I think you just hit it where you said, you're trying to get a lock on it. And I think that's actually one of the biggest mistakes we all make.
Yeah.
We try to get a lock on ourselves. We try to hit that level of perfection. Leaders will say, well, I've been leading this person for 10 years. Clearly, I understand them. Like, I know what they need.
Yeah.
Well, you don't, because as much as you're evolving, they're evolving. We have different generations. We have different ideas. My life changes. As my life changes, what I need from this organization becomes different. I am not you. You are not me. This is the complicated part, but for me, it's the exciting part. And I just keep reminding people, we just got to get curious. Let's just get curious about each other.
Yeah, that is the exciting part, just because, again, it's you're not going into it thinking you have the tools locked in to help this person, to help these people. You go in and great, you have foundational tools, but every conversation, every group, every organization, team, division, all of it is a new canvas with which to work.
Yep.
So I think that's incredible. Carrie-Lynn, last time in episode 32, we dove into your path to now, because I'm always curious, obviously, what the path is of the leader that I'm speaking to now. We don't have to go through the depths of it, because I want people to go back and listen to that conversation as well. I highly recommend that for other than the obvious reasons. But can you give me, I'm always curious, the next question always is, how did you get here? Like, what did your path look like to now? Usually I ask people to start around high school or when they go into the workforce to see what that path did look like to now, the changes, the pivots that they took in their life to get to where they are now. So what did that look like for you?
Lots of pivots in my life. So going through high school, I thought originally I wanted to be a lawyer. I loved like helping people solve problems. I am 100%, I'm a problem solver. I listen to people's stories to hear the problem and then to offer solution. That's great when you're 20s, maybe even into your 30s, but you quickly learn as you become a leader that maybe that's not exactly what people need you or want you to do all the time. I want you to listen to me differently. So then I moved into policing. I was a police officer for 17 years. Great experience as well. Lots of problem solving in that one. Then I moved into being the civilian human resource manager for the same police service and quickly learned that I needed to advance my listening skills because now I'm trying to support employees from the very beginning of their career all the way through that evolution of their life cycle in our organization. I wasn't a police officer coming in, jumping into your life, helping you support you and jumping back out. I was with you for the whole journey.
Yeah.
So again, that's really starting to identify people's needs. You might be doing the same job, but you've got very different needs. You might be in the same organization. You've got very different needs. Like there was so much to it. I trained to be a mediator, which was fantastic. Probably, I highly suggest that, honestly, for anybody. Take some mediation training.
Yeah, I've done that. Yeah.
It's just so valuable.
Even if you don't use it as a business, even if you're not going into it as a mediator per se,
Yep.
just for your own life and just your own navigation of the workplace, of personal life, it just gets you to listen to needs versus wants. So I echo that sentiment.
And I mean, that evolves too. So, I mean, again, that's like the kind of the evolution of things.
Yeah.
So then I left HR, retired from that, transitioned into being running my own business full time, and then also being a professor at a local college, teaching human resources and business. Because I really wanted to stay in tune. I don't know about you, but do you ever go to workshops or you have a trainer and it's a lot of like I used to's and back in my time or back in my day. And I thought, no, I need to ensure that I stay relevant and I keep learning. So every time I teach a chapter to my students, I have to truly understand what that's all about, whether we're talking about corporate social ethics or we're talking about business professionalism or, right? I need to know that I know what I'm talking about, but my students, next generation, challenge you. It might be some old theory written in a textbook, but they're going to challenge you and say, but that doesn't make any sense to me. Or my boss never does that. Or I've never been in an organization where they did that. They call you on it.
Yeah. And that's good because it keeps it fresh. Mm-hmm. It keeps the tenets of the textbook connected to the reality of the work world. So that's amazing.
Yeah. And then I can bring that back to employers too. Or I can correlate it to maybe an employee that they're challenged with or struggling with. And I can correlate, again, my own experiences, but maybe give them, I call it like the helicopter view. Like I come in and I'm looking down on your organization. I'm seeing everybody for who they are. I'm hearing all the stories. I'm not part of us. I'm not part of them. I'm just up here and I'm observing what's happening and I can give you a very different perspective. So that's where I'm at now. I come into organizations and support them any way they need. Sometimes you get a call, can you do some team training? And from the team training, I learn conversations or I hear conversations and I learn of issues. And then I might, evolve that into some leadership coaching. Maybe it's that here policies and processes are a mess. People do not feel supported because there's no rules. There's no transparency. There's no fairness. It's you do one thing for one person and then you do something for somebody else. So sometimes it's literally bringing everybody back and saying, okay, we need to establish really strong policies that speak to as a new employee, do I understand what my rights are here? Do I understand how you're going to carry out a process, whether it's performance or an HR related topic? And I think for organizations, and probably a lot of your listeners can relate to this, we've just grown so fast. I mean, all of a sudden we have like hybrid and remote work, and we have globalization, and we've got maybe your organization was small and it's grown. Who has time to stop, put the brakes on, and start making rules and policies and processes and forms? Nobody.
Yeah.
The other thing that we happened is a lot of people left organizations. So with them went all this incredible intellectual knowledge about the organizations. It's not written anybody because they just did it.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's coming right back down and teaching them how to do that piece. I love adaptability. I love flexibility. I don't want to do the same job every day. So every time I go into a new organization, to me, it's just like, hey, let's just learn, see where the bumps are, and help you fix it. That's all.
I mean, no two leaders are the same. No two teams are the same. No two organizations are the same. The leader from one session to the next is different based on, it's always a moving target, no matter what level you're talking about, the individual up to the organizational, up to the societal, whatever it may be. Carrie-Lynn, when it comes to you, I'm curious also, for you, for school, what did you major in? Why did you major in that? I'm always curious why you picked a certain direction to head in.
Well, I always tell people, I tell my kids, you're going to go to school many times. So don't even worry about, are you picking the right topic or the right degree or the right diploma? Do something that interests you. You're going to take something from all of them. So there's the professor and the mom and me talking. So I went to school originally. I did law and psychology. I specialized in criminology because the thought was I love studying people. I also like to understand law is all based on societal expectations. So I enjoyed that part. I was going to use it for policing or use it as a lawyer. I wasn't sure where I was going with it. Then obviously I went to police college, where you learn, all of the fundamentals of policing. Within policing, took lots of leadership courses, things like that. Then I went back to school again, did a postgraduate in human resource management, because I didn't know anything about like health and safety regulations. Like I don't know this stuff. So I went back, got that certification. Then I did my mediation certification. So I've kind of like pulled pieces whenever I felt like I think I need to grow in this area. That's kind of where I would focus my education.
Yeah. My educational career is mine looks haphazard.
There you go.
It was like marketing undergraduate, organizational psychology graduate, then MBA, then mediation. So I don't think I would have planned it that way, but again, it called for what I wanted for, what I was searching for in those moments. So what made you initially go into those studies? Where does that come from in you?
I was thinking about that. I think I've always wanted to help people either build or rebuild relationships. That's just always who I've been. If you had friends in conflict, I would help them try to solve those conflicts. If something had to be mediated, you just became one of those natural people that I was mediating it between, my team at school and the teacher, or the teacher and another student, or then as a mom, you're doing it between the teacher and your child. Like it's just a skill I've always had. I don't shy away from conflict. I see conflict as an opportunity. It's not something that we have to be adverse to or argumentative about. There's different ways to do it. But in that, if you talk to people that were in high school with me or, in my early 20s, how I tried to do it and the skills I used aren't nearly as finessed as the skills I have now, right? We didn't know.
You maybe went from a sledgehammer, now like it's like a chisel, now it's more refined, right? No one gets it perfect at any point in life, but especially not in high school.
Right.
So how you've mentioned how you were as a younger person in specific words, in your words, I always ask this question as a follow-up. How do you reconcile the work you're doing now to who you were as a kid?
So I was thinking about that too. And I think that's why VISH evolved. Because it was my way of challenging all of us, myself included, in really breaking down those assumptions and presumptions. Can I give you a really simple example?
Absolutely, always.
So I might be coaching a leader, let's say, and the leader says, I don't know what else to do. Like every time we get one of these surveys from our employees, they say the upper leadership doesn't value us. We feel unvalued and unmotivated by this leadership. Or somebody in my meeting said, you don't value me. And the leader's just sitting there shaking their head saying, I don't understand because I do everything for them. I fought for them to get that raise that they really, really wanted. I make sure that if they work overtime, they get paid for it. I make sure that, they get their holidays and they get their lunches. Like I do value them. They're right, except they're valuing them the way they want to be valued. And I realize this is what we all do. I train you the way I want to be trained. I lead you the way I want to be led. And I value you the way that I want to be valued. That is a really tough life lesson. And if you want to be taught it, if you have children or people that are significantly close to you, they will teach you that you are doing it wrong. You are likely attempting to value them the way you want to be valued, and that's what causes conflict.
Yeah.
So as I moved through life, I would look back at all these examples where I had tried and realized, just like those leaders are doing, I'm doing the same thing. I'm getting it wrong because I'm not asking the right questions. I'm not listening to them the way I need to listen. And so I need to start actually meeting people's needs the way they want them met, not trying to interpret what I think they need.
Yeah, I think it might have been COVID that woke me up to how much listening we really need to do. Not to bring everything back to COVID, but I mean, that's a demarcation in our society, in our beings, if we're open to those lessons of what we learned. But between more people sharing where they were, we were all on screens in our environments. It's, we were in community online, but in our environment, so we felt more comfortable. And I heard people really opening up about where they were, how they were feeling, all the mental health conversation that came to the surface. So I think because of that, and obviously because of this series, my listening is different. And it's just incredible. You don't know you reach that level of listening until you hit that level of listening. You can tell somebody, hear them out. You can tell somebody, listen to them. And they may think it's kind of taking in the information, but there's just something about really being there for the other person and listening. Not as a chore, not even as a partner in the conversation necessarily, but really taking in and listening to someone's needs. Because obviously the more they speak, the more they share, the more they feel heard, the more they will speak, the more they will share, the more they'll tell you. So they're hurt. It's kind of a perpetuating cycle in itself where they feel trust, they feel safe with you, if you will. So it's incredible. People really they really do need to consider their listening and see how well they do it. And it sounds like common sense. It sounds like a common practice or common advice, but I would implore everybody to really consider how they listen to others.
I agree with you. And then I think we can almost take it like another step in the sense that we listen and we're truly listening. That leader is truly listening. She's heard people say they don't feel valued. It's bothering her, like she doesn't know what to do with it. So now what do we do? And this is what leaders were telling me, but I am listening. And I know that maybe I wasn't listening as intently. Now I put my phone down when they come into my office. I'm hearing them. I'm asking open-ended questions. But when I say, so what do you need from me? What does the employee say? Well, I don't know. Like, I'm not happy about the fact that, yes, you gave me my lunch, but that's not what I wanted. But I'm not very good at telling you what actually would make me feel valued. So part of it's listening, but part of it's also learning how to communicate our own needs. I think when we truly think about it, that's another thing we don't get taught.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of families, because I have a lot of international students. This is another piece. Like, my students taught me, but I've never been, like, that's not permitted. You don't speak about your needs. You don't raise yourself up and say, this is what I need. It's the family, it's the community. So if that's the sense, or people, they do it in a very argumentative sense. They start yelling. They throw grievances around. They get combative. So it's teaching people, I want you to listen. Yes, leader, we want you to listen, or a coworker. But then I also have to understand how to enter into this conversation and truly share my needs in a way that makes sense and not defensive and blaming.
That was the other part. And I was going to see if you were going to open up that side of it.
Okay, good.
Where it's incredible where this is the period in my life where I'm listening more, but I'm not hearing anything that much differently. And if I dig deeper, that is kind of the case, because I'm still a work in progress, but I've gotten to the point where I'm listening more. So I'm evolving little by little, work in progress. But a lot of people are still communicating the way they've always communicated.
Yep.
Me, when I'm proactive about it and I don't fall into my automatic programmed default setting, I will communicate a little differently instead of just kind of throwing it out there in passing. I'll be more intentional with it. But it is incredible where in certain environments, in certain relationships, even though I'm listening more and I'm asking questions like, let me know what's going on, people really don't communicate or know how to communicate what it is they need.
Yep.
Not even young people in the workplace, but just in general, I'll throw myself in there. We're horrible at advocating for ourselves, at testing the waters, at, that's not my job to speak up and say that. That's why I like that you're doing that, where you're not just working with the leader, but you're working with their teams as well, because it's not just, you can have a great leader, but if you don't have people behind that leader that take advantage of that, that they have a great leader, that they don't step into it, the invitation that the leader gives them, you're right. If you don't connect those circuits, it's not going to go anywhere. So I love I don't think I've heard that on here, where there has to be that connection. Almost like you got to meet me halfway. If I'm going to open the door for you to walk through it with me, you gotta take a step forward. So you have to advocate for yourself, among so many different things about how to bring yourself forward.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think it needs to be, we all learn differently too. So yes, I could read a book about it, but it needs to be interactive. It needs to be engaging. I need to actually, I made like tables in the book. So I would ask John, right now, at your current state in this organization, on this team, how can I value you best?
Because some people will look at you like,
exactly, right?
I
don't know.
Is this a test? Like,
but it's fun because
not even. But aside from somebody not knowing, they might even think, I don't know if this is real or if they're testing me or whatever it might be. Because so different people are going to react differently.
And that's the fun of being the facilitator, because I'm watching for all those underlying pieces. I've got people who, you ask them that question, they start writing. I have other people that sit there and they don't write anything. That tells me something.
Yeah.
I have people that might put, I like to be paid for what I do. That sounds really simple. Okay. And you're thinking, well, that's easy, done. But no, because again, I'm making an assumption. So, well, tell me more. Like, where does that come from? If I ask my students, well, my boss, sometimes he pays you on Friday, sometimes he doesn't pay you till Monday. Sometimes the boss, again, comes back to policy and procedure. They're fine with overtime. And then other times, like, they're grumbling at you because you worked an hour and a half and now they don't want to pay it. They think that you should have got it done quicker. Sometimes I heard some coworkers are getting paid $18 an hour. I'm getting paid $15 an hour. I don't understand why. So yes, the value is I want to be paid for my work. But what it means, how you make this value come to life is different. So it might be creating a policy for fairness. It might be creating pay scales. It might be creating an actual payday and having somebody take over payroll because the boss gets too busy and doesn't get the payroll out. These are the type of conversations you have to have. So it doesn't really matter how much they write. Somebody might write you a book. Yeah. Somebody might write you 2 words, but we need to ask more questions.
Carrie-Lynn, for you, I trained in mediation, so I'm very familiar with it. How did your mediation training, how did it influence this new approach you have to leadership? Subconscious versus as you were going through mediation training and certification. Yep. If you maybe saw a connection and looked at it differently, was it that kind of helped inform your shift from just the leader to opening up that ecosystem? Was that what might have done that?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Because what would, so often like in leadership coaching sessions, people will ask, what do they like? I thought, here's my own learning. I thought when you were doing leadership coaching, it was supposed to be some coaches, it's very structured. Like on session 1, we do this, session 2, we did this, session 3, we did this. I tried that for about a minute and a half. That did not work for me. That's not how I work. So I gave that up. So we always start with, tell me something that went fabulous this week. Because I want to start us off on a positive. You're trying really hard. You're meeting with me. Let me hear something great. Now let me hear about a challenge. So we can go anywhere with this. Mm-hmm. Often it was conversations like, I had an employee come in. We needed to discuss something. They brought up this need, whatever it is, or this thing that they're upset about. And this is what I did. So what I would ask them to do is like literally pretend that I'm with you and talk me through it. What did you say? What did they say? What did you say? What did they say? Just like it was a mediation, like as if I was, sitting back and watching the conversation. And as a mediator, you know that very quickly people will hear something and then they jump to action. Okay, so you want your paycheck every Friday. Is that what you're saying? Do you need it by 4 o'clock or 2 o'clock? So then what I could do with my mediation training was saying, okay, I'm just going to stop for a second and I want you to hear what that may have felt like for the employee. So try to put some of those feelings in. I feel like you dismissed me. I feel a little frustrated because you're not actually hearing why I'm upset. What? So to give them that other perspective.
Yeah.
Sometimes when they've hit a kind of a wall between the two of them, their homework from the session is to go back, re-engage this conversation, and I'll challenge them with some more paraphrasing, some more open-ended questions, just to dig a little deeper. What did they mean by that?
Yeah.
That is a great way for people to learn because you're right, I've made a presumption and assumption there. I don't actually know what they meant because I didn't ask. And then the next session, see the growth because you know what, I was totally wrong. I thought they were upset because another employee was being paid $20 an hour and they weren't. So I was just going to open up the policy and show them the pay scales. It turns out they're upset about the $20 an hour because they're going through a lot of medical issues right now with one of their kids. The benefits aren't covering the issues, and so they're thinking about it as a money thing. I need more money. Mm-hmm. But now that I've actually heard it, it's a benefit thing. It's benefits. It's support they need. Maybe I need to give them more flex hours. Maybe I mean to make it so they can stop having to take so much time off to go to the medical appointments and they can just work those hours a different way. There's so many ways we can evolve these conversations, and that's where I try to use my mediation truly to let people see again, get higher in your view of this conversation and start to see how and why it's happening.
Carrie-Lynn, what do you think your superpower is? What's the one thing you would go to that's you, no one can take it from you? What do you stand on? What's your superpower?
I think it's my willingness to self-correct. I know that sounds different, and I think my superpower, even my own definition of it, has evolved. But I've realized that if I can help people do that, if I can show you that I will self-correct, that I'm always learning, that I mess up. My first book, I tell people, that book is full of my mistakes. I wrote them down to teach you what I learned and how I grew from it and what I can give you as tools to use in your own leadership. I don't know that everybody is willing to do that or able to do it. But I do think it's a superpower because it helps me teach other people and I keep learning myself. That's why I keep re-evolving and then use those, those powers or that knowledge or skills or whatever to support other people.
Yeah, and it's incredible how those superpowers might change across the years. Because you say self-correct, I don't it's not my superpower, but I've done it a lot more, or I have apologized a lot more. I think it's just kind of being tired from so many years of putting up this fight instead of just kind of sitting down saying, yeah, I was wrong. It's part tired of putting up that fight and part we're wasting time by doing that. I want to move forward. So if I can apologize, if I can self-correct, if I can admit fault, whatever it may be, show my vulnerability, let's show where we really stand so that we can move forward. There's a solid foundation there. So I like that idea of self-correction.
I've used the example lately a few times about, you know what, let's just get curious and do a science experiment. I love psychology, right? So let's just try. Let's just try a new approach this week with this employee and see what happens. So it is a form of self-correction, but for people, it kind of feels like a safe way of doing it. Because if I tell them, I'm not faulting you for who you are or how you would do things, but let's just get curious and try a different way and see what happens. I find I do that a lot in life. If I seem to be it's not working with this person. I'm trying so many different approaches and it's just not working. I'll literally make myself sit back and think, okay, what's something you haven't tried? Just get curious. Where's the harm in it? It's not going well right now anyway, so we might as well just try a new thing and see if it works. And it's surprising what that slight adjustment can do to improve the relationship.
Yeah. I think we're not, maybe because you're a professor now, and maybe because you said you've kind of cross practices. You bring things from this world to that one and this one back to this one. Maybe it starts with educators like you where you get these kids thinking about experimentation because I never had that as a kid. It was kind of like, this is what you need to learn. Even in grad school, this is what's out there. There's your scientific classes. Again, I go back always to the scientific method. But we just don't have that comfort with experimentation. Like nowhere, we were taught everything else, but we weren't taught about experimentation with life. That if life hits you this way, if work hits you this way, think about how you can do things differently. That never really came up. I don't know what education is like now. I've been out of school 10 years, but I do wish we had more of that mentality, more of those examples of trying something a different way. And that if it doesn't work out, it's fine. It's an experimentation. We'll go back to the drawing board. If we want to try again, fine. If we find something new, a different avenue to try, we can try that as well. But just that mentality of trying different things and not getting locked into one behavior because we think it might have gotten us to where we are and it's worked this whole time.
Yeah, it's interesting because so another thing that I mentioned in all of my training and in VISH is the fact that I often use the analogy, people are like onions, just like ogres. Ogres are like onions. We're like onions. We have many, many, many layers to us. And sometimes some people, when you think about it, they'll show you just like those outer layers, but they don't get too deep. Yeah. So what you're talking about right there, I might be willing to try a few things, but I'm pretty risk averse. I like to keep things the same. I don't like change. I don't like risk. It could be I don't feel confident. I don't feel competent. Those are words from Adam Grant. Confidence versus competence. So some of it, I have to realize like where they are and then make it fun and make it less threatening to try just a little something new.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if you're talking about professionals, absolutely, because by that age, they've gone through their schooling, they've gone through that, A, B, C, or F kind of thing. They've
Yep.
gotten through that programming. So by then, it's already programmed into their head. Some of it may be innate to who they are, who they've always been in their DNA, but I think for the most part, so much of it is just it was so society and teaching and upbringing was just so structured and so restricted that, yeah, by the time they're a professional, there's no idea about taking small risks, doing your due diligence, but really stepping out of your comfort zone. So again, everybody's different backgrounds, different
Yep.
paths to get there, which you have to understand. But I'm even talking when they're students, kind of planting that seed of experimentation, incremental, because everybody's going to have their own threshold for what risk is. So I appreciate your thoughts on that. And then one last question, Carrie-Lynn, before we jump into the book. Obviously, I have you on here, leadership coach, author, but what does leadership mean to you? In your words, what does that look like? What does great leadership look like? And again, I did have this question the last time we spoke, and I'd be curious to go back and listen to
I
that
would
one
too.
compared to this, because, 3 years is a lot of time to allow for a definition, especially leadership, to evolve just based on what we've seen in society and your own work.
I think societal need for sure plays a part. I think great leadership, honestly, is people that are willing to adapt, admit their own errors, and continue to grow. That's all I'm ever looking for. When I start coaching somebody, that's what I'm looking to measure when I first started working for them or work with them. If I don't see that willingness to adapt, well, people have to meet, me where I'm at. This isn't going to work. Or
Yeah.
if I don't want to learn, I'm comfortable with what I have. I think I'm really good at what I do. Absolutely, you are. Absolutely. Every single leader is great at what they do, but there's always areas for improvement for all of us. That's great leadership. I have worked with some amazing leaders, and sometimes they're very young in their leadership. I say young in leadership because you can be, chronologically young, that you're just stepping in as a supervisor. You've been a team member for, a couple of years, and all of a sudden they yank you into supervision because we don't have anybody. Sometimes you've been with the organization quite a while, and now you're stepping into leadership. But when I work with those young leaders and they show me that willingness to learn and they get curious, I know they're going to fly. They don't know it. They don't feel confident. They don't feel competent.
Yeah.
They're nervous, but I know right from the beginning you're going to do so well.
Yeah. All right, why don't we jump into your book? If you could, Carrie-Lynn, why don't you introduce the book and the full title again, and just kind of tell us how the book came to be. What was it that led to the book?
So the book, the acronym is VISH, Value, Inspire, Support, and Hear, Essential Elements to Business Success. It came out of some of the trainings that I was doing. As I was doing the trainings, and I was actually trying to explain to teammates why there's a conflict, or why there's a conflict between these two teams, or why there's a conflict between a leader and a coworker. It always came back to VISH. So I created the acronym very early on, saying, if people are having a conflict, it comes back to either I don't feel valued within this organization or by you, I am not very inspired to do the work you're asking me to do, to make this change. I don't want to. I don't feel supported. So maybe I'm trying to learn a new job. I have a lot of things going on in my life, and I don't think you're helping me. I need accommodations, mental, physical, psychological. Or I don't feel heard. I am tired of going to meetings and nobody actually hears my ideas. They ask for our ideas and then they don't hear us. Or I send an email and nobody responds. I don't feel heard on this team. It always came back to one of those four things. So I literally started to kind of create worksheets, or we would do like small amounts of work on it. But teams themselves, leaders themselves were saying, I feel like this needs to be a component, like a training course on VISH. I want you to come in with my team and help us have these tough conversations. Help us learn how to communicate our needs and call ourselves on our own assumptions of what I thought you needed. So I'll give you another really simple example. We talked about at the beginning about the one about feeling valued about my pay and how that could be so many different things. Another value that often comes out is people that have been with an organization for a long time. And I'm close to retirement. I've done some coaching with people, 2 years out, year and a half out. And sometimes it's because you're starting to see these new behaviors. Like this stellar employee is now either slacking off a little bit, an assumption they're slacking. They're becoming very disgruntled. They're becoming very protective of their stuff. For them, the value statement could be something like, I don't want to be forgotten, or I want to feel like I meant something to this organization. Do you know how many people say, like, don't let the door hit you as you walk out?
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That is extremely powerful. It's not about the pay. It's not about the vacation. I already got all that stuff. I'm at the top of the scale. I'm worried that when I leave, you're either going to completely change my job. You know how insulting that is to people? I've been doing this job for 20 years and I heard they're not even going to post my job. They don't even see any value in my job. They're going to restructure my job. And the boss is thinking, what are they talking about? Like, why are they worried about how we're restructuring the job? They'll be gone. This animosity, this frustration can do a lot of damage in 18 months or 2 years before they actually retire. Or you know what they do? Well, I'm not leaving. I'm not going to leave. Because you're going to ruin everything that I've done. You're going to ruin all my processes, all my work. That's a very interesting value conversation to have between an employee and an employer. But it's one that needs to be had.
Yeah, I mean, when we first started talking today and you spoke about just that disconnect between leaders, supervisors, managers, and their people and what one thinks should be valued versus what the other one values, it's incredible how often, and you just mentioned the example of I'm at the top of the pay scale, so it's not about that. It's always incredible what small acknowledgement, even thank you, even like common everyday courtesies, how much that can do for people. So it's just incredible. Again, somebody may want, yes, a higher salary. Somebody just wants to be seen, respected. They love their work, they love their team, but something about the higher ups doesn't sit right with them because everything is working out, the work is getting done, but for whatever reason, the higher ups aren't giving them credit or aren't praising their work or slight things like that. But this conversation and this kind of talk about those examples just gives you that whole spectrum of what it could look like from, yes, compensation or benefits or PTO, whatever it may be, all the way to you're just not using the right words with me.
Right.
Little things like that. It's just little nuances.
And then leaders get scared because they're like, okay, so wait, so we're going to have this conversation with our team and they probably all want to be valued slightly different ways. And now I have to meet all these values. How am I going to have time for this? Or I don't have the money for this, or what they want, we don't have in the budget. They want to be paid more. Well, I can't. So some of it too, again, through leadership and through training sessions, was also helping people understand the why. Or do you explain the why? Because you may not get what you want. It's like your kids can ask for things too for Christmas and they're not getting it. But sometimes we do need to explain the why. And that's actually a perfect kind of analogy example, the Christmas, right? So because one parent might say, well, they don't need to know. I said no, and that's the answer. I'll get the same response from a boss. Now, it might depend on the employee that you're talking to. If you're, and if if I'm talking to a brand new employee, they really don't need to know. Or if I'm talking to somebody that's a little senior, I give them more of an explanation. And my question to them would be, why? Do you value this person more than this person? The young person in the organization might be the real conversation you need to have for retention purposes. You need to inspire them. You need to show them we can't do it right now because, but I'd love
Yes.
for you to get engaged and help us find a grant for this, or,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Where the
Yeah.
other
It's
employee's like,
incredible
I don't want to be on
new
that
people
committee.
are underestimated or
Oh
undervalued.
yeah,
To me, it's
100%.
always like these people, you brought them on, which means you brought them in for an interview, and your panel, or however you do it, thought they were good
Yep,
enough to bring in the door. You think they're competent enough, they have the education, the training, whatever you require,
yep.
and you're not going to listen to them. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? Like that's a fountain of wealth that you can use, of knowledge, asking them what they see, what they're experiencing, how they view the organization now that they're inside. So there's
Yep,
value in every level. Again, you're gonna lose that institutional knowledge, but again, you made that comparison. Is this person more important than that one? They're all your investments at varying
that's right.
levels, yes, but they're all your investments.
Exactly, exactly. And sometimes, if they're feeling disgruntled or excluded, we can find ways, if we listen to what they're hoping for, we can inspire them to get involved in some of it. So you as a leader don't feel like you have to find all the solutions. Get other people engaged. Sometimes it comes down to, so we talked at the beginning about like team and getting them synergized. Well, sometimes we need to do some work on VISH with the team because they don't value each other. I don't value you as my teammate. I absolutely don't hear what you're saying because I have my own ideas and I've already decided how we need to do this. I don't support your needs. So maybe you're neurodiverse, and there's certain ways that we need to support you so that you can feel as engaged and as inspired on this team. But we don't really do that. It's very lip service. We have a policy.
Yeah, yeah.
So it can dive into so many different things. And that's what I found as I was working with all these organizations. We could always bring it back to this, to the point that in the workshops, I actually give them a VISH sticker. And I say, I want you to put this beside your phone, on the computer, like wherever you're going to be having conversations. So before you send that email, before the employee comes in for that performance conversation, I just want you to look at it, think about it, maybe grab the book, look at a couple more questions you could ask.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it in this framework, start that way, and you're going to be amazed with what you learn and how different the conversation goes.
Carrie-Lynn, so how did you structure the book? How did you lay out the book? What is that path in that order, that progression that you take the reader on?
So we go through the 4 components, literally working through, obviously, what does it mean to you? And then I give you a lot of examples of what other people have told me. Because this is the other part. Sometimes, remember where we said I might ask somebody to write down what inspires you at work, and they're just sitting there in the big blank, like they have nothing?
Yeah.
Because sometimes I don't know. And it's actually good to read through or to hear some of the ideas that other people come up with, because maybe I didn't even know that was a possibility.
That's the other thing. That's the other thing, is just those reminders, those questions. Because
Mm-hmm.
in hindsight, us with our profession, our skill, our tenure, wherever we are, we have those things that we understand are there for the taking.
Mm-hmm.
That you're
Right.
not just leaving yourself to the mercy of the organization. Like if you're not getting training in your organization, if that's not what they're about, but you like your job, it's on you to get out there and find it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all about, in some cases, giving people not even permission, because permission presumes that they have something they want to say, but they need permission. Others don't know that they have that ability to even step up, to speak, to advocate for themselves. Like some of them get lost in the idea that they're there to collect a paycheck. And I say all that just to mean that, again, I go back to that, a simple reminder to somebody, a simple question, a simple reminder of them, to them, of their rights, like asking them questions. So I've seen that deer in headlights look when you ask a new person a question and they're like, I didn't think I was able to say that or share that of myself or what I need. So just those asking somebody a question, making a comment that's not driven by the work but about them, can unlock just so much curiosity.
Yeah. So it's literally just working through it slowly, working it through it as a team. There's exercises in it that ask, like, when did you feel really supported at work? When did you not feel supported at work? But then the next pieces are, and then what did you do? Right?
And
So
then,
that
yeah.
I got angry, I booked off work, I went and got another job. What's another approach that we could take? What's something else you could try? Remember, that's the experimentation piece is for this to work, everybody has to grow just a little bit. And it's
Yeah.
going to be valuable because we're going to create a truly synergistic team. That doesn't mean we don't have conflict. It just means that when we have it, we go back and get curious about why. What happened here? And help people talk it through. So 4 components of the book, the first 4 parts, obviously, for each of the components of VISH. And then the
Yep.
last one is literally, how do we bring this to life in our organization? What are
Oh.
all the different ways that we can implement this? And there are so many different ways, from obviously conflict resolution to things like even your interview process. Imagine if you ask somebody in an interview, tell me a way that your last employer supported you. Now, this is not a rubric that says they must say this or they must say that. It would be a rubric if they gave us nothing or they had an idea. But you would learn a lot about a candidate. Again, according to AODA standards here in Ontario, but it's not, nobody has to disclose any kind of disability. You don't have to tell me, marital status, family status. But they might tell you that I felt really supported when they allowed me to work some flex time while my child was ill. And, I don't need that. I don't need it now, but I think that was a great employer. And actually I stayed with them because of that. Well, that shows me what it means for you to be loyal to an employer. That, you didn't book off sick. You just needed an adjustment that way. It might be a conversation that you and HR have to have later about, what your expectations are around this job for being supported. But
Yeah.
I might learn a lot, right? Conversely, there's a lot of conversations that I think we need to have with employees earlier on, like things about value. If your expectation to be valued is that you're hoping to move up within this organization in the first 6 months and, are hoping for a promotion, well, then we need to have a realistic conversation about our organizational structure and how that works. Because I didn't realize that that was your expectation. So we could have that conversation a little earlier. And I can explain you the why. We're unionized. We're a very flat organizational structure. People recently came into those positions, like whatever it is. But we could have that earlier on so you don't become resentful and frustrated. And then I can't believe that that's what you thought.
Yeah, in the moments that I've had with graduate students or undergraduate students that were graduating, and I was helping my alma mater with mocktails and resumes and interviewing and whatnot, that was kind of the piece that I tried to infuse in them, is just kind of this doesn't come down to who has which degree.
Yeah.
You're here for that, but there's tens of thousands of people across the country that are getting the same degree.
Exactly.
So you really do have to understand yourself, your values. They want to know the person behind it. Now you have to kind of work with somebody, because when I was a graduate out of college, undergraduate, my language was sloppy. You're clumsy. You trip over your own words. You don't really know how to convey it correctly. So there is work to be done about the language, but it all begins with that. It's not, your degree is great, the grade's awesome, internships, of course, but like, how do you speak? How do you express yourself? That even if you're stepping in somebody's door, the organization, it's weird. Like, you have your rights too to speak your mind within that context, within the right context, about what you view and what you value. Obviously trying to get that job, but not just being a robot that fits the job description, being a little more than that. So there's that other piece, that other side of it of, okay, expressing your values. Aside from the person that's listening, what are you telling them? So yeah, that's the first thing that comes to mind, is just those young people that don't recognize their ability or right to share their values. Again, language is everything, but that they do have that right to do that.
Another place that I try to like really reinforce for organizations is we need to be, this VISH needs to become a language that we just start using and we get very accustomed to putting in place. You spend a lot of money hiring and training employees, and you've got a probationary period of 3 months or 6 months. You can't afford to lose those employees. You can't afford for them to leave. But often the employees don't know how to tell you or what to tell you about how they're struggling to learn the position that you need them to learn. They don't tell you how they need to be supported because maybe, go back to my onion, maybe I've been raised in a culture or a family, or my previous work experiences have been that when I tried to share, I got shut down. Mm-hmm. So, or you just don't do that. So when I come into this work, I pretend that I know what I'm doing. I fake it till I make it, but I actually don't know how to do it. So now I'm frustrating my coworkers. I'm frustrating my boss. You need to teach me how to have that safe conversation about what is it that you need. And this is what happens. Well, I asked them what they need and they said nothing. So we need, again, we come right back to mediation. Okay, because that was a closed-ended question. What do you need? Nothing.
Yeah.
And the conversation is done. Show me how you're trying to learn this. Show me how you've been trained and what part got confusing for you. Walk me through what you know and then stop when you're not sure. There's different ways for us to start to look at, now what do you need? What would have been easier? What would have been more clear? Oh, you need to see the machine. You need to read the book. You need some past examples. You need to be mentored by somebody. Now I know how to train you.
Yeah.
So we can implement this into training. We can implement this into teams that don't get along. We can implement this into meetings. Imagine if you centered a meeting around, I need to ensure people feel valued, inspired, supported, and heard. What would that look like? What could I do? What could I do differently?
Yeah.
And then as soon as I ask a leader that question, the first thing they do is they start giving me the answers. Well, I would do this and I would do this. And I go, how do you know? How do you know that's what people need? Yeah. Oh, yeah, I got to go ask them. Yeah. Yeah, you have to go and ask them.
Carrie-Lynn, for you, how did you evolve? What changed in you with this book being out? Obviously, authors, specialists go into their books. That's their jam. That's their specialty. Mm-hmm. But even in that process, how did your thinking evolve of the topic in going through this process? Do you look at it differently than when you began?
I think I realized, I don't think I even made the correlation at the beginning that what I was trying to do was create like a workbook. So as much as it's a book, it's a workbook that you can read independently or use as part of a workshop. I think initially I was trying to just make it a workbook, almost like filled with pages that I would use. I think it's fantastic to work with an editor, no matter, who your publisher is. I think there's so much value that your editors give you because, again, they're doing that aerial view. When you're an author and you're writing the book, it's your viewpoint. It's what I think the reader needs or how I'm going to use it. And so they would challenge me and say, I don't get this part, or you need to explain this more, or this needs to be something I can just pick up and read. And I'm like, oh, you're right. I kind of forgot that lens. So I would say that's how it evolved, so that it could be used both ways. And I was surprised how many people that once, they have the first book, they're like, oh, I want to get your second book. I think I just assumed it would be part of a workshop, but they're loving the book regardless. So that was kind of fun. And that I'm glad the editor pushed me to write it both ways.
So VISH is your fourth book?
Yeah. I have a couple of smaller books. Yeah.
Yeah, if you could you go through the titles of those?
So the other ones are, the first one is called Revamping Your Hiring Process. And literally very strategic, walking the employers through how are you posting jobs? How are you creating job descriptions? How are you doing your interviews? What are you doing post-interview? We need to revamp this because the way that you're trying to do it is the same way you've been doing it for a long time and you're having the same results. So revamping it. And then the other one is rock that interview. I'm an interview coach as well. And so really I wrote it first for people that I was coaching to say, can you go and read this first and then come and work with me? Because there's a lot of things you need to understand about the interview process. How are interviews marked? What are examples of interview questions? What are examples of interview answers? What's a poor interview answer? Why is it a poor interview? And then it was things my students would ask me. What should I wear to the interview? What's the difference between a virtual interview and an in-person interview? I am so nervous. I don't know how to deal with that. So I answered all of those types of questions in the different chapters of that book, Rock That Interview.
And then it was knowing who you lead,
Yeah.
and then VISH. Okay.
Yep.
What do you believe is next for your writing? Is there something, no pressure, is there something on the horizon, another area you want to delve into, even if it's a general consideration at this point?
You know what? I think it's actually going to be creating an assessment tool. So again, I love new employees. I love, our next generation. I've been using a couple of assessment tools that are actually in Knowing Who You Lead, because I believe in sharing everything. The people can go to my website, they can pull down resources, they can use them. That's what they're there for. But what I realized in working, actually just lately, I was working with a student union board, and I gave them one of my tools. And what they did was they read basically the directions, but kind of like the overview first. And then many admitted, which I thought, good for you, they admitted to trying to basically tailor their answers within the assessment tool to match who they wanted to be. Right? I'm like, all right. Yep. That sounds exactly like what my students would do.
Right.
Where I think I had been using it maybe with teams that we knew each other more. So I couldn't really, not cheat, but because you know me. So John's going to know, Carrie-Lynn, that is not your assessment. And you'd call me out on it.
Yeah.
I hadn't really done it with a kind of young professional group like this. And they're very much striving to be who they think we want them to be, or who they need to be. So because of that, and some other questions kind of that arose, I thought, I think I could do this differently. I think I can tweak this. So literally on the drive back, I had 3.5 hours, and I, chatted into my phone, putting a bunch of ideas, and then went on to some different systems to just see like what would it be to create this. And I think that's where I'm going with it. An assessment tool that I can use and teams can use. Yeah.
Carrie-Lynn, what lessons do you hope people take away from the book? Even somebody who doesn't think that the book applies to them, what general lessons do you want them to see and see how they can use them and how they can utilize them in their life and their work? What is that major lesson? How would you sell that to somebody? How would you share it with somebody?
I think the first part, people always want to know, like, what's in it for me? If I can't relate to this, then I don't really see any value in trying to do it for other people. Like, let's face it. So that's why the chapters all start with, give me an example of a time when you really felt heard. And then give me an example of a time that you did not feel heard, and why, and what was the result. People can fill in those examples pretty quickly. If I can actually give you tools to feel more heard, to feel more supported, wouldn't that feel good? Because nobody wants to go to work every day feeling not heard, not supported. But I'm also going to call you on the presumption and ask you to do a little experiment. Just try it. Because you're assuming the boss doesn't want to know. You're assuming the boss doesn't want to hear you. And I don't know that that's right. Maybe we just need to share our information a different way. Maybe we need to flex how we do it. I always come to the boss and tell them they're doing this wrong, they're doing this wrong, they're doing this wrong. So I'll give you a really simple example. I was actually mediating a conversation between a boss and a coworker. The coworker loves their job, can kind of see problems as they're arising, wants to give the boss a heads up. But the emails come across a little harsh, You need to do the following. Bang, 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 bang. The boss is irritated because they see this employee is overstepping, stay in your lane. They're kind of assertive. They're telling me what to do. Like, who are they to do this? We had this fantastic conversation where I got them to actually hear each other and share your intent. Share your intent behind what you said. And then I want you to hear how it impacted that other person. You can literally see light bulbs going off. You could also see some despair because I never intended for my email to make you feel that way. I am so sorry. It never occurred to me. That's why I could sense friction.
Yeah.
I thought it was don't have time for me. I didn't know it was because you thought I didn't have confidence in you as a boss. You hear the difference? So I really hope I can inspire people. Just try it. Just pick the book up, try a couple things, read what other people are thinking, try a couple new approaches, either with a coworker, for yourself, or for them, and see what happens. And it applies to your kids, your spouse, your best friend, and everybody, because we all make the same mistakes.
The same assumptions, all of it.
And life changes, and I think this is the other piece. I think we need to be gentle with each other. Life changes. So the way I needed to be supported when I'm not brand new employee and I don't know how to do the job, the way I needed you to support me and teach me, well, now I'm confident in my job. I know my job. I don't need any of that. But now I'm struggling with something else in my life. Mm-hmm. So it's a completely different form of support. And here's the last one. Just because you as a boss or you as another employee toughed it out, suck it up, all those crazy sayings, and you didn't share how you were struggling, or I'm sure you had struggles. This is not a you're better than them scenario. If they're open to saying what they need, thank them. Don't judge them. Thank them. Don't judge them. Your organization is going to be so much better for it.
Carrie-Lynn, as you were talking, your Canadian accent comes out, right? So it's been 3 years since we've spoken, and then you were walking me through the highlights of your life, your work, your career, education, the HR, police officer. So then it was painting this full picture, and I remember, and it brought back to mind for me, I remember one of the main things that you had discussed the first time around that I think impacted you very much so was farming. Mm-hmm. Right? So I haven't heard it this time around, but I wanted to ask you, how does growing up on a farm, how does that impact you? Just to kind of remind people, if they heard the first conversation, I think it's a good point to bring up. How does that inform the work that you do, the farming?
Actually, it's a great example. We are in the midst of hay season right now. And so, you know what? This is a great analogy because as we all grow up on this farm, my kids were born and have grown up here as well. But my daughter's now in her 20s. So think about if I'm going to inspire her or help her feel inspired, how I do that is very different. Now it's stepping back and saying, okay, there's a task or a job that needs to be done. How do you want to do it? How do you think we should do this? And letting her take the lead. I mean, I wasn't doing that necessarily at 12, but now I need to recognize she's got the knowledge, she's got the expertise, and even if it's not the way maybe I thought we were going to do it or what I would have maybe done, who cares? Let her take the lead, make some decisions, and then you can see it. It's a much smoother relationship. It's a much more kind of loving relationship because there's respect and there's people being valued by each other. Not saying I'm perfect of it. As a mom, I mean, we all fall victim to this. We want to tell people, we want to, we have an idea of how it should be done. But I think farming teaches you, there is a job, but there's probably 7 different ways to do it. My husband absolutely has a way to do it. He's always done it that way. He's, strong and knowledgeable. I can't do it the same way as he can do it. I can't even do it the same way I did it 10 years ago. So I have to do it a different way. And now we have other people supporting us and helping us. So it's just listening to each other and recognizing value each other for the same things.
Carrie-Lynn, what books have inspired and made an impact on you? Someone else's books. Which ones stand out?
So one I thought I would mention is called Finding Me by Viola Davis. Oh,
Okay.
that woman
That
is
just came out,
incredible.
what, last year, the year before?
Oh, it's
Was
been
it,
a couple of years.
has it been? Okay.
Yeah, and I've listened to it, I bet you 3 times on audiobook to listen to her powerful voice. But
Yeah,
that,
she's got that voice.
but it's her story, and it's a story about resilience. It's a story about truly wanting to feel valued and supported by people, and often not getting either. She had an incredibly challenging upbringing. She did not by any means step into those magnificent roles that she's had by, nothing but grit and perseverance. So I think it just resonates in a lot of different ways. One, resilience, but also that she talks a lot about self-love and just believing in yourself and picking yourself up. So I think it's a great one to listen to, and absolutely listen to her read it to you, because it's pretty powerful.
Yeah, I think I just watched a movie with her on Amazon Prime where she plays the president.
Okay, there you go.
And I mean, her range is
Oh,
just incredible. Like,
yep.
there's very few people that can play strong and then vulnerable and that range in between like she can. So I appreciate that recommendation. And I might get it on audio just to hear that voice of hers
Oh, it's
share those
amazing.
stories and those lessons. And then in wrapping up, Carrie-Lynn, what are you up to these days? Is there anything you want to share? Anything I didn't ask about? Anything you want to cover? Anything at all? The floor is yours.
Well, I would ask that people, connect with me on LinkedIn. I absolutely love following other people's careers. I love every time you post, another podcast coming out, because we get to learn from other people. I think there's that need for people to share and to truly just take the time. Don't just curse like quickly through people's posts. I think people put energy into them, and there's so much that we can take from them. So join me on LinkedIn. I like to do posts. Some of them are me in the farm field. I also like to do, I also do workshops, and obviously, join me if you're interested in learning more about the books. I have some specials right now. I'm actually figuring out ways to kind of globalize what we're doing. I think we did that in COVID, but I find as someone working with organizations and working with teams, it's to figure out how do we make it feel genuine enough. I mean, I love doing face-to-face and coming in, and I think all of us have done enough of those webinar training, plug yourself in front of a computer and listen to talking heads for an hour or 3 hours or 8 hours. I mean, it's hard.
Mm.
So how do we make this interactive? How do we make this discussion based? But recognizing that if your team is global or they're spread out, we still need them to have these conversations. Don't let those teams just do process and not put the energy into building them up. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes organizations are making. Well, they're a global team or they work shift work. There are still ways that we can support them and give them a truly interactive training. And I think that's important. And my training sessions always have homework. So they will be doing things afterwards to build off, what they're learning.
Amazing. And again, Carrie-Lynn shared her own book, VISH, Value, Inspire, Support, Here, the
Yep.
Essential Elements of Business Success. Carrie-Lynn, thank you so much for sitting down with me.
Oh, you're very welcome. It was really enjoyable.
And if there's anything I missed, anything that you think I should have asked, there's limited time, so much to cover. I take people down tangents and rabbit holes. But if there's anything that you want to hear from Carrie-Lynn on, I can reach out, see what kind of additional wisdom, guidance, insight, knowledge I can get from her. In the meantime, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. And I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye.
Bye now.